this point enough, but the conversations that you are having or the conversations that you are hearing or being a part of is having a profound impact on your brain. It's very similar to baking a cake, yeah? If you put poison in the cake, well, that cake's gonna be very lethal to anyone that eats it. But if you put superfood into a cake or superfood into your body, then you're gonna build a food that's actually gonna be good for your body. The same thing when it comes to our conversations, because every single conversation that you have is actually an ingredient, a flavor that's coming into your brain. And I always say this, you are the average of the top 5 conversations that you have. Okay, and you could be doing everything fantastic. You could be doing all the deep learning practices. You could be actioning everything and doing everything. You still got anxiety, and I can tell you why. And I can tell you why you're not thriving at your best at the moment. And I can tell you why you haven't found your best. And one of the biggest reasons I see this in my students is the conversations. The conversations that you are having. And I'm gonna go through this list. This is a little exercise. I want you to do this exercise and try it for a week. Don't listen to what I'm saying. Do it for a week and then send me a direct message, because I love to hear how you go with this experience, because this kind of experience changed my life in many ways, because I took a lot of poison out. The more poison we take out of our brain, the better it's gonna function, the better you're gonna do the things that you're supposed to be doing, because once you have that ecstatic desire, your brain is gonna be in that joyful freedom mode. That's an elevated emotion. That's where the brain is functioning and working at its best. That's where the genius lives. That's where your best self lives. That's where the fearless you lives. And what happens? You go into an education system when you're a kid with all these dreams, with all these imagination, with the things that you want to do in your life, and you're locked on such a high. And most people come out of it on such a low, not believing, or those dreams have gone because of the way the system educated you and me and us, and also the conversations that subsequently come from that. Very purposeful. So, this is what I do, and I want you to try this for 1 week. Try this exercise for 1 week and experience it yourself and see what happens to your brain. Okay, so the conversations that you have, I record every conversation, okay, because it's data. It's actually data. Great businesses out there record their data, and then they assess and analyze their data, and then they make decisions on how to improve. This is very similar. The only thing is, this is your brain. This is the most important organ you have. This is your life. This creates every action and every result, every feeling, every thought. So you want to make sure that your brain is functioning at its best, not its worst. And so often I talk to people and they say, I've tried every course, I've done everything, I'm working so hard and I'm not moving and I've still got anxiety. And one of the major reason is this. And let me explain to you. Okay, so this is what I do. And listen to me carefully here. So, you got the conversation exercise. It's one of the best exercises you can do. And if you can do it for 7 days in a row and record this conversation and then you analyze the data, I'm going to go through it now. I'd love to hear private direct message how you go with this, okay? I'm just curious because your experience is going to be your experience, okay? So, conversations that you have, positive conversation, I call them the superfood. The super brain food. And they're things like when you get together with someone, you talk about ideas, generating ideas, brainstorming, going through different ideas and then just finding a way to solve problems, because I love that idea creation and problem solving exercises with someone else that's also passionate to get somewhere. Think about this, right? Listen to your body. When you're having conversations about ideas and you're generating new ideas and you're solving problems by generating new ideas and then brainstorming, think about how you feel afterwards. I had a great conversation yesterday with an AI group last night, and I walked into my bed feeling really excited, had a massive smile on my face, because your body doesn't like when you're having these type of conversations. I didn't even realise I was on high. And it's just the way your body knows when it's having certain conversations, because it's superfood. It's superfood for your brain. Goal setting, talking about your goals, talking about your achievements, talking about what you're trying to do, getting into those conversations. It's really about, what are your goals and what are their goals, and then sharing these ideas. So these are the kind of conversations that always lift you up, but also they're good for the brain. The brain is now generating the exciting part of the brain. The creative mechanism is starting to feel free and joyful and ecstatic. Inspirational stories. I love inspirational stories. I love watching and hearing stories where it's inspiring, where it's a happy story, where it's a story where someone's tried really hard, they've struggled and they've won. Talk about these stories. Make sure that these stories have a purpose to where you want to go. Learning and education. And yesterday, again, I had another conversation, and they were telling me about something that they're learning at the moment through this different educational course, and I was listening to what they're learning, and they were telling me their experience, some of the practices they were doing. And again, a great conversation. So all these are the type of conversations you need to be trying to have. It's what I call the superfood positive conversations. Now remember, this exercise was taught to me by my mentor. So doing something like this will change your life, because it will change your brain. Teamwork. There's nothing more beautiful than when you're working on a goal and you're working as a team and you're discussing together what you need to do to achieve that goal. And especially when you're creating products, or you're creating a service, or even when you're just a team trying to work on a project or something together, and you're working as a team trying to solve that problem, and then you're discussing that, they're always beautiful conversations. Health and wellness. Now, in the last 18 months, there's a group of people that I've become connected with, and we're all talking about our health. What we eat, how we exercise, ice baths, all that, meditation, everything that you do to keep yourself healthy. So you start having these conversations, and all of a sudden you get together, you talk about this. And it's about helping you, making yourself better, and making also, remember, when you're getting into these conversations, you're there to also give, and so the other person's responding to you. So they're beautiful conversations, and you walk away feeling great. These are the type of conversations that help elevate your brain. It's called the superfood. And what I do, this is what I do. At the end of every day, I write down all the conversations that I had, who I had a conversation with. Okay, I write it down, and then I write, did any of these things come up? Was the conversation about this? Now, wait, because then I go to the negative side. Okay, now this is the poison. This is the poison, because you can have some of these conversations and then all of a sudden, let's go to the negative. Because once the negative conversations kick in, we're putting poison in that brain. All the hard work that we've done here gets negated by the negative conversations. And what are the negative conversations? Gossip and rumours. I mean, people are always gossiping and always spreading rumours. And the moment someone says, I've now perfected this, because the moment it says, hey, let me tell you about so-and-so, I stop them straight away. I don't want to know. It's probably made me unpopular. I've lost friends, but I stop the conversation. I don't care. Okay, unless it's related to my ecstatic desire, unless it's about ideas, unless it's about positive conversation, I really do not care about gossip and rumors. It is poison. Okay, complaints without solution. You know, and the thing is, you don't have to be the complainer and you don't have to be the gossiper. You just have to sit there and listen to someone complain all the time. Have you ever sat next to someone or been in a conversation and all they're doing is complaining and complaining and complaining? I don't remember having conversations with someone all the time, and I didn't realise until I did this exercise why every time I speak with this particular person I get anxiety, because he's always complaining. And I'm thinking to myself, that's why I always get anxiety. I just don't talk to this person anymore. Simple. You've got to learn to shut these things down, because you remember, you're putting poison in your brain. All the hard work that you might be doing, all the actions and stuff that you're doing, you're putting poison in your brain. Pessimism, it's someone that's always negative. Even when they're winning, it's negative. Oh, but I didn't do this. Oh, but I won, but I could have done this. It's like, it's just, and again, you may be the one doing this, stop it. But if you're listening to it, it's just as worse. So you could be listening to the conversation, it's just as worse. So if you're not a gossiper and you're listening, you're putting poison in your brain. If you're not a complainer but you're listening to the complaint, you're putting poison in your brain. Anyone that comes with a complaint, for me right now, and I say this to my daughters, for example, or to my friends, don't come to me with a complaint without a solution. If you're going to come with a complaint without a solution, do not come to me. If you're going to complain, I want you to come up with a solution and I'll give you another one. But do not come and complain without a solution, because it goes nowhere. It's just a negative conversation. Blame and accusation. How many times have you had a conversation with someone and they're just blaming and accusing everyone? I mean, I've had friends of mine call me, and people that I haven't spoken to for years, they're kind of accusing me of doing these videos, which I don't know how it affects them, and for some reason I'm in their conversations. So they're kind of like accusing and blaming of me doing videos that has nothing to do with them. I can't understand it, but unfortunately they're in this area. They've put poison in their brain. Remember, once you're accusing and blaming everyone else for the problems that you're having, you're in this category. You're killing all the hard work that you've done, and you're hurting your brain. Sensationalism, exaggerated news that creates fear. I mean, the media does this really, really well. They exaggerate stories, they sensationalize things, and of course this comes into our conversations. I mean, I've heard every single conspiracy theory out there, and everything's going to be so bad, and it's from everyone's scared. And all it does, it creates a negative mindset, but it's also putting poison in your brain. And that's why I say limit, if not don't watch social media unless it's very specific to what you're trying to achieve. And please limit your conversations when it comes to sensational stories. Because again, it's coming into your brain. Toxic competition. Or we're always comparing ourselves to somebody else. Oh, but this person is doing that and that person is doing that. Don't worry who's doing that. Don't compare yourself to others. Focus on you. Do what you do best. Let the others worry about the others. So don't get into this, oh, but that person's doing that and that person's got that. Because all of a sudden you're putting poison in your brain, and all the hard work that you're doing is basically derailing your brain. It's demoting your brain, which means you're demoting yourself. Excessive self-promotion, selfishness. When you're in conversations and you can't even get a word in, and someone's just always talking about themselves. Think about it. You know when someone's really selfish when first of all they just don't stop talking about themselves, and every conversation becomes about them, self-promoting themselves, and then all of a sudden they're just talking about me. You don't have to be the person doing it, but if you're listening to someone do that, you're actually putting poison in your brain. And conspiracy theories, there's so many conspiracies. It's very similar to sensationalism. I mean, there's so many, stay away from them. I mean, you don't need that toxic poison in your brain unless we're going to use it. Remember, you've got so much positive topics to talk about. The main reason why people talk about this is because they don't have an ecstatic desire. And the main reason is because you can't talk about this, you can't talk about ideas, you're not solving problems, you don't have a purpose, you don't have directions, you don't have inspirational stories, you're not fighting for something, so it's easy to talk about this. So this is the exercise that I want you to do. And if you're game enough, do it and send me a direct message, only if you've done it 7 days in a row. Because you can't do it 2 days and then stop it in 2 or 3 days. You've got to do it in a row so you can experience the effect. And I did this for this week. And this is my scorecard, for example. I analyze the data and look at the conversations you are having. Do they fall into this category or do they fall into this category? Now, if you're having conversations in this category, let's assume you're having a conversation, for example, about ideas, and all of a sudden, halfway through the conversation, someone's talking about gossip, then it becomes a negative conversation automatically, okay? So it becomes one of these. You've got to be able to score this and not cheat yourself. So during this last week, I had 30 conversations last week. 25 of those conversations were in this category, positive, and then 5 of those conversations were in this category. And when I assessed it, so I had 30 conversations, 25, 83% were positive, and 17% were on the negative side. So, what you've got to do is you've got to try and find out your percentage. You've got to try and find out your data and analyse your data. And the key is this. My goal, for example, is to get this to 90 to 95, and eventually I want to get this to 100%. I only want to put superfood in my brain because as this grows, I'm getting better results. As this grows, I see my life getting better. As this grows, I'm doing things better. I'm actioning things better. I'm solving problems better. I'm meeting different people. My conversations are growing and developing. Bring this down. Once you have a target, okay, if this, I had one of my students last week, he was at 85% here. 85% of his conversations were here, and then he was telling me why I've got depression and anxiety and these deep learning practices are not working for him. I can tell you why they're not working because you're at 85%. Get this to above 90%. I'm at 83% as of last week. I'm trying to get this down up to 90%. I've got a target. But this is why we need to assess and analyze the data. The conversations you're having are the food. It's the poison or the superfood. You decide and you choose what you're going to have. And you can only do it when you assess and analyze the data. Do this exercise for a week. I'd love to hear your experience on this, but you have to do it for 7 days in a row. You have to assess it. You have to be accurate. And again, be clear with the conversations that you're having. Because what's going to happen after the week, you're going to see your percentage. Like for me, 17% negative conversation is still too high. It's way too high. I've got to get that down under 5%. Okay? And so I will. But at least now I've got a target. I've become more conscious. I've become more deliberate with the conversations. I become aware of the kind of conversations that I'm having. People have an expectation now when they talk to me of what I'm expecting when I have a conversation. I don't do meetings anymore unless there's a clear agenda. That's one thing you've got to learn. What's the agenda? Why am I meeting up with this person? Give me the agenda. Tell me why we're chatting. Tell me why we're having a conversation. That's how clear you got to, because I want to make sure I get my percentages up. Try for a week.